Part of it was the timing. Part of it was like, I would like to think my ability. But I think the reality was they needed a warm body to throw on the fire.
Hello and welcome to Did I Do That? It's a podcast about graphic designers and the mistakes that we just have to make on the way to making just about anything, because it's all part of the process. I'm Sean Schumacher, and joining me today, a very special guest, an advertising legend with a career spanning continents. He's held roles at Wieden & Kennedy and TWBA Media Arts Lab, working with some of the biggest names out there, including Nike, EA, Kaiser Permanente, Apple, Google, and many more. These days, he freelances under the banner of Liberty. Here in Portland, it's Peter Yue!
Yay, I'm here.
I am so glad to have you here.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me.
Once again, another beautiful spring day that I'm ruining for someone by forcing them to spend time in this windowless box.
No, it's all good. No, I love it. I spend a lot of time in windowless boxes all the time, just, clicking away, doing art stuff. So it's home.
Yeah,
true. It's a second home, but it is good to get a little bit of the vitamin D.
I think people forget just how little sunlight you get to have, especially once you get to a certain level in design where you're just like, you're in a production box all day.
No, people talk about like the my complexion, and then they're like, yeah, because I haven't seen the light of day for like decades.
Well, that's
no sun damage.
I mean, that Portland is helping in that way too. It really. I look forward to having any color at all back in my skin in the next couple months. But so, Peter, you've actually done some work in the past for Apple, including helping to promote Ted Lasso's For Your Consideration campaign pretty recently. This episode is actually going to be coming out on May Day, which feels like kind of the perfect time to talk about another Apple TV show, Severance, a show that I would say fundamentally at its core is about how capitalism, and specifically the American workplace, is evil. So perfect timing for May Day, I would say.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I think.
Except for the fact that the show wrapped up airing 2 months ago, but we don't need to worry about that. That's, that doesn't really count. I mean, Ben Stiller just did Chicken Shop Date, so, it's still relevant. It's still relevant. But, Severance is so popular. It's so buzzy. Everybody wants to be on the Severance bandwagon. Just yesterday, I saw like IKEA in Australia is recreating the famous Severance cubicles with their furniture, which it sort of does highlight a little bit of a problem with like getting in on the buzziness of Severance, which is like, if you are selling stuff to look like a show that takes place in a dystopia, that sort of in and of itself is a little dystopian. I actually have some things that I did want to highlight in that. And as always, I'm talking about SpawnCon, sponsored content for those of you who are new to the show. So I have two approaches here, and I would call them a study in contrasts of how to do sponsored content around a show that is tackling some complex themes like Severance. One is from State Farm. It is starring none other than Jake, everybody's favorite, I believe recent ad age favorite mascot of all time, Jake?
Really?
I believe so. They did like a bracket thing, and I believe it came down to Jake and M&M's. And I think Jake won.
Really? Jake? I mean, I like Jake. He's affable. He's, hunky, handsome, whatever. But
he's also just some guy.
Yeah, just some dude.
Like M&Ms are M&Ms.
Yeah, M&Ms are like talking, like wearing weird minstrel gloves. I mean, like, yeah, man, I would 100% lean towards M&M, but I mean, I also lean towards like Old Spice, Smell Like a Man. Like Isaiah's. He's the guy.
I feel like that is a much more iconic commercial than anything that State Farm has been putting out. I will say, though, I think State Farm is maybe on the right side here, because I've been seeing this 30-second ad all over the place where a person, just some person, wakes up and they find out from Adam Scott that they've been severed because their Audi, their person outside the Severance world, didn't want to pay their car insurance bill. And so along comes Jake from State Farm, who recommends that they instead join State Farm, presumably to insure their Audi AUDI, the car that their Audi drives. And I think there's an important keyword there, which is instead. They recommend State Farm instead of what is going on in the world of Severance. And I think That's important because it positions State Farm as the alternative to evil.
Oh, man.
So that brings us to the other approach. And I do feel bad about kind of burning this one because there maybe is no more frequent podcast sponsor out there than ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter, you've given so much money to creators I love, and I love that. And maybe someday you'll be foolish enough to give money to me. Who knows? But ZipRecruiter, I think, is really got an interesting approach. They've decided to specifically partner with Lumen, the evil company at the heart of the show Severance. And you might be saying, Sean, this is just you saying that. They're not saying that they're partnering with Lumen. I quote from their post on LinkedIn, "We've partnered with Lumen Industries to help them hire for a number of severed roles. Want to work for a prestigious company that's founded on productivity? Visit ZipRecruiter.com/Lumen." No, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, definitely weird.
It's a very strange take. And I hate to, again, call out ZipRecruiter, but I think those types of job application sites, of which they are one of many, are already like pretty dystopic places to be on, as I hear all the time from students, thanks to all the weird AI stuff and hiring filters and like the fact that they prioritize resumes full of SEO type garbage. We're not starting at a baseline that is closer to utopia than dystopia. But like when you are specifically calling out that the kind of company that you can find to work for on ZipRecruiter is one that is like kidnapping people and doing brain surgery on them, I don't think that's a great vibe. I think maybe, I had this like idea this morning thinking about this, where it's like, everybody loves an ARG. ARGs were super hot like 15 years ago.
So hot right now.
So and they're still hot right now. Like my brother, big ARG fan. He did the Lost ARG when that was a thing, which was a terrible mistake because it was just full of nonsense because no one involved knew what was happening in Lost because no one knew what was happening in Lost, including the creators. He did one for the Batman movie with Heath Ledger in it, where he won maybe the worst prize ever from Domino's, a actual rubber Batman mask that perpetually melts on the inside and smells worse than any Domino's product that you can imagine. And that's Domino's that we're talking about.
Second degree burns, third degree burns.
It like leaves a residue on you when you put it on, which is weird.
Yeah.
I think something was very wrong with it. But like he does this stuff. He loves these things. And like maybe this is like leading to some sort of ARG. But that being said, when you like play the Lost ARG, the goal is like not to work with the others to get Jack and the gang eaten by the smoke monster. Like that's not what you want at the end of the day. Those are your heroes. That's the entity that you want to side with. You want your brand to be associated with not evil. You don't want your brand to be associated with evil.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think that might have been a misstep of like trying to align with a dystopian, ubiquitous company.
Yeah, it's a strange thing. And I feel like, it's a trap that I see companies doing more and more. Like Squid Game, I think Jack Link's beef jerky, you get your own special shout out here for, aligning with sort of Squid Game's evilness. And this is not even talking about Beast Games, the thing that is just Squid Game. Like he like said like, hey, you know how evil Squid Game is? I just want to do that for real. It's all bad. So all the companies out there, all the brand managers out there who listen to this, just want to like, let's take a pause before you launch the idea and be like, hey, if we're doing this partnership, is it with an evil company? Let's just take a little pause before we get, super on the buzziness train. But Peter, you didn't come here to talk about, I guess, ZipRecruiter.
No, man. I feel like if it's Umbrella Corporation, like.
Oh yeah, a classic evil company, of course.
There's a lot of evil companies, so I think during this landscape of like evil companies and doing their thing, seems very familiar. Where science fiction becomes reality.
It's almost like we keep, forgetting about, like the evilness that happens. Like we're going up in an elevator and just suddenly the camera zollies in on us. And, woo, our minds are erased.
Right. It's like you go down and knock, who's there? It's Skynet.
Skynet calling.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's no good. No good, very bad. But Peter, you came here to actually talk about your sort of path through design. And we were talking before the show, like you had a kind of early start on it. You went to school here in Portland at Benson.
Yeah, that's right. I think Benson, as you guys know, shout out Benson Polytech. You can go to two directions, vocational and health occupation. And so I took a lot of communications classes. There was a major called engineering drafting. I was kind of a draftsman. I was ready to go as a draftsman.
Which is like a pretty ambitious thing to be like putting high school students in on. Like,
I think people don't give students credit or young people credit because they can do a lot of stuff. Crazy stuff.
Yeah.
There are child soldiers out there. I'm gonna go there,
Dear
man.
Lord.
Yeah.
I mean, it's true, but
they do stuff. And I
don't think anyone should join Benson's child soldier track, though.
No, they'll be automotive program very strong.
Yeah.
Building construction very strong. Being a health occupation, being a technician.
Yeah.
Health technician very strong. But no child soldiers.
So you're in this like drafting program, and I assume too, this is the early 90s, so like probably there is kind of a lot of crossover with graphic arts and like that sort of world too.
Yeah, 100%. I think at the time there was a communication. You can also major in communications, if I remember. It's been a while, so
I think that's still a thing because I've heard people talk about like there in the communications track there is like radio production and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, radio production. There's a radio major.
Yeah.
I think it's a great school. It was competitive to get in at my time, and I think it is now. And they remodeled the place, so it's amazing. Yeah, got the start there. Was cutting rubylith for silk screens that early, I think.
Yeah, well, which is like, I mean, that is the professional level of working. Like that was what was happening if you were like in college doing graphic design or like, in a lot of actual places. Do you remember kind of the moment where it's like, oh, this is actually what it is that I want to be doing? Like,
I think, my mom was pretty strong. She's an immigrant mom. She had some ideas of what my track was to be. I was a fairly okay student in high school, and I went to Oregon State for engineering. And,
oh, really?
Yeah, to be an electrical engineer. And
wow.
Yeah. Who knew, right?
That's a very different track too.
Well, I always was a STEM guy.
Yeah.
And at that time, I went to I think to your point, I got really excited doing STEM stuff in elementary school, middle school. And I was in Mesa, so mathematics, engineering, science achievement.
Wow.
I think Mesa was kind of for more lower income, if I remember, but it was just exposure.
Yeah.
Right. I had opportunities to come to Oregon State, observe, like back then they were like, this is how a computer mouse works. So I'm like, holy moly, this is amazing. And you can do computer graphics. And I was like, yeah, my mind's blown. And then, Tron comes out and, stuff like that. And now this is totally betraying my age, just me giving these references. But it was mind blowing at the time. So, I wanted to be engineering. I think it was a lot of pressure from my mom.
Yeah.
She had a lot of expectations. But so I went to school there, was entering my third year in engineering school.
Wow. So you got deep into it.
Well, I wouldn't say deep, but I was in, I did the back core.
Yeah.
I was doing all the fundamental stuff. I think I had a meltdown and I switched over to art, and I was like, yeah, man. And my mom pictured me being a starving artist. So that could have been, in some ways that can be a reality for some people.
Oh, yeah.
Because the creative industry can be a difficult industry.
Absolutely.
So
well, especially at that moment, there is this technological transition that is happening, and I mean, the idea of a graphic designer or graphic artist of any kind, like it is. I don't think people really maybe had a grasp on what that was like.
Yeah, my mom had to look it up in her Chinese English dictionary on what graphic design was, and still didn't get it.
Yeah.
Right. It changed her tune when immediately when I graduated out of Oregon State, I had a gig ready to go. So that was cool. That proves something.
Yeah.
should have been a lawyer, should have been a doctor or engineer.
It's
But
true,
like,
true of all of us, ultimately. But like, do you remember that transition point, like coming into it? Did you feel going into those initial art classes, like, did you feel like you were finding your home essentially in a way that maybe you didn't in engineering?
I was always an art kid.
Yeah.
But I happened to work pretty hard at school to get where I needed to go.
Yeah.
So kids, go to school. So
go to school and stay in school.
Yeah, no, go to school and like open as many options, as many doors as possible.
Absolutely.
Because I think there's always going to be a convergence.
Yeah.
Of like art, design, math, biology. You know, you're going to find convergence.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
And I know for a fact that we have so many folks in our program who come from architecture or engineering, and they find this, and it is like kind of this beautiful marriage between like the creative side, but also like if you have a great understanding of structure and like systems, that is so powerful to actually make good design work too.
Yeah, I think there's always something to unlock if you have a broad education.
Yeah.
You know, so there's, in terms of design, because like I think a lot of times design is organization.
Yeah, oh, very much so.
But then there's like ornamentation and like cool stuff like that. And then just wacky ideas. Like I'm now known as the idea guy or idea generation machine.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a good thing. And then they're like, oh, now you can also put it in a comprehensive thing that people can understand.
Did you start to unlock any of that in school? Like, do you remember any projects where you were getting into kind of your weirder side for the first time?
Hey, man, I've always been a weirdo. So like, that's the thing. I think it's easier for me to express myself through design and art.
Yeah.
As most people, but I would have been a mediocre engineer, right? So it's creative,
yeah,
but in a different way. And hats off to those who like stick with it and do their thing. But for me, I definitely love what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, and like part of that too is like you are leaving school and you have this job lined up. How does that happen? Like because you were starting right away at, I believe, Robley Marketing. Is that right?
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah. How do you get that like connection to actually work?
So the thing was, I didn't say no to anything.
That's helpful.
As a junior person, didn't say no. I'm like, worst assignment? Yeah, I'll do it. Do stuff that is like that no one else wants to do or too busy to do. Yeah, I'll do it. So like being open. I had 2 internships before. I was in the design studio at Oregon State. So I was highly motivated just in general. I mean, maybe it was like because I had a chip on my shoulder of like, you know, I'm going to prove my mom wrong. But
it works though. I mean,
but I think it was more. I think that could have been an issue. Man, I love this therapy session. But then also like, I think that it's also just to prove that you can. For me, it's all about like I need to have a little bit of money, right, to get going.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
On just life. And so I wanted to see if I could make it because, like, you know, back in the day, I would walk around on Saturday market and I'm like, man, how are all these people, all these craftspeople doing folk art and amazing folk art and jewelry? How are they? I want to do that.
Yeah.
You know, that seems exciting. I want to do caricatures all day, like sitting, like drawing, making fun of people.
Honestly, it doesn't sound bad.
No, it doesn't sound bad because you're like out in the fresh air.
Yeah.
You're drawing exaggerated noses on people. I mean, yeah, dude, I'm down.
Asking them if they are into roller skating.
Yeah,
you know,
roller skating, and then like you're making a living out of it, or at least you're spending your time out there and like doing the thing. So I think that's always pretty dope.
Which is like, it is such a powerful thing to see somebody also doing work like that out in public. So you have your first job. You're out into the world.
Yeah.
What do you do at Robley?
It started off as an internship. So the thing was, how did I get that thing? It was just through a recommendation through my instructor.
It works.
The network is, you know, encourage that network.
Yeah.
Right. You know, and if an instructor or a professor sees potential, you know, they're like, hey man, apply for this.
Yeah.
I think you could have a possibility of like getting it. And I got it. So it was cool. I would, you know, schlep a big portfolio box around back in the day.
Oh, sure.
We had the internet, but it wasn't like, you know, it was like web 1.0 or whatever.
Images have to be, you know, the size of a postage stamp at max.
Yeah. Or really like, oh yeah, man, I wanted to like put a lot of pixels in this image, and this is like a 5 meg image back when everybody was on like tiny little modems and stuff.
Oh yeah, students, you have no idea how long it used to take to download like anything at all. If you wanted to go to yahoo.com, you're setting yourself up for a 3-minute page load time.
Oh, I kind of wish they'd bring back the GeoCities type of thing with the like little construction man like doing work.
100%.
Yeah.
This will have already happened by the time this goes out. We do this sort of scheduling thing for one of our classes, and the suggestion I got for it was MySpace. And so I have this whole plan of essentially simulating what it was like to actually be on MySpace and watch someone discover like CSS and then ruin the page, but also kind of learn like, oh, wow, you can kind of style things and like do web design here. The simplicity of those tools and the access that you got to have to them through that kind of platform, like so powerful.
Yeah, to personalize stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's like, I think all of us as artists want to personalize, leave our mark, make our mark.
Yeah.
My daughter, like when she was really young, was drawing hearts all over like the house.
Oh, yeah.
And I would my wife and I still discover stuff where we're like, what's this heart doing here? Like drawn in this like closet, like that's crazy. And it's all at a certain height. So we know like what age she was. So,
sure. Yeah.
It's pretty awesome.
That's the giveaway. I do have to ask too. Did you have a GeoCities website?
I did not. You
didn't claim your neighborhood. GeoCities had the strangest. You would pick a neighborhood and then have an address in it, and
I mean they went 1,000,000% with the metaphor. So yeah,
truly.
Like I think a lot of people have to connect with a metaphor with something new.
Yeah,
because the tubes of the internet were like very strange.
Yeah,
shout out Al Gore. Inventing it.
Thank you, Al.
Yeah.
Big Al. You are hearing me talk.
Yeah.
I love it. But it was such a unique approach to this very, like, it was so many people's first website. So like, what does a website look like? What is an address? How does any of it work? You had to find something.
Yeah. I spent some time like making websites very early on.
Yeah.
I think when Oregon State, if I understand correctly, was really kind of at the forefront. It's a research school.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And then they were like, we're going to be sending emails. And I'm like, what the heck? Dang, my love letter, sending it to like all my 7,000 girlfriends. I can send it to like, and they can quickly respond with like, who is this? I hate you. Go away.
But just think of the savings that you'll have.
I know,
just in postage alone. No more having to go to a mail house to have your girlfriend's addresses sorted.
Yeah, return to sender.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, so I mean, like you have some early access to these tools too.
It's pretty cool.
So like, you're working at Robley, you're like building your start of your career. And Robley is in Portland, so you're back in Portland, right?
Yeah, back in Portland.
Yeah.
It was like take a half day from graduation and then next day. I wish I took more time off to like kind of bathe in my graduation of my 5-year super senior thing. And I kind of went bonkers because like even in my like time at Oregon State trying to get the art degree. So one, I got a BS in art, which is kind of awesome.
Yeah.
Because of all the math I took. And I was like,
sure. Yeah.
So I was like maybe a class or two from getting a math minor. But then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to like do both emphasis of like design and photography because I love both.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And then I recently looked at my transcript and I was like, dude, I could have been a doctor. Like all the credits that I took. And I was like in the studio all the time, just in the dark room, either in the dark room or in the studio or like just doing stuff. And I'm like, what was I thinking? And I had a job. So I was like an RA.
Yeah, you were an RA. You were also a student senator in like the student senate too.
Yeah. Like why not?
Yeah, you're just doing everything.
Yeah, because like I don't say no. I'm all my family and friends lament like I don't say no.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's being raised by an immigrant mom, single mom on disability, kind of instilled like you have to. And I still 100% believe in the American dream, whether it's real or not. I think you can be anything you want to be.
Yeah.
Do anything you want. You just got to kind of put your nose to the grind, as my wife would say. But also like I forgot about the showmanship
Yeah.
and that part, or a personal brand. And it took me, I still haven't learned it, I would say.
I don't know about that. I mean,
No, I mean, like, there's people that are like, oh, designers and whatnot. And that's not like really my thing, is be a celebrity designer.
No.
I do like talking to people about like, and passing on some cool information so people can learn.
yeah.
But like, hey man, maybe I'll get that star on the Walk of Fame someday.
Yeah, you'd need an agent, and I think $16,000, and then pretty much anybody can have a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
I know, right?
It's so exciting.
Yeah.
It's so funny how many of those types of things just work like that. It's so
Yeah, you got paid to
weird.
play. I did not know.
Yeah. We need a design Walk of Fame, and I need to be the one who's profiting from it. So coming to the Fifth Avenue just before the, sort of like crossing over the 405, it's the design Walk of Fame.
It's the time is now, man.
Please deposit $16,000 into my account, and I will get a star all prepared, and it may just be in vinyl, but it will be attached to the sidewalk for an amount of time. And we don't
temporary.
I don't
pretty good.
have money for permanent vinyl, and it's on a sidewalk, so we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I'm not buying more vinyl for this. What am I made of vinyl?
No, man. Just
No.
stencils. Why don't you do stencils?
Well, I don't want the city coming after me like they did
What are they
with
gonna
all
do?
those stencil people
You got
years ago.
$16,000 to pay in fines.
Yeah.
It's fine. Be like Jeff Bezos.
The Jeff Bezos approach
Yeah.
to having a hedge around your
Yeah,
compound.
Pay for the fines.
I mean, it's just part of his Lex Luthorification that he's on right now. So, that's so he can privately find a way to kill Superman without all the paparazzi watching and giving away his plans to Superman.
I respect that dude. Because he's like the super geek that's like got a lot of money, now he can do whatever he wants. Build a spaceship, sure.
Yeah.
I think his new thing was like the all-female astronaut or whatever.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And they're wearing these like insane spacesuits that are like a combination from, I can't remember that video game, but like, and then also like Galaxy Quest. Like it's a whole, I mean, they're all wearing these outfits, and I think I'm not familiar with the thing, but I think I'm like, isn't that a picture of his wife?
Yeah.
And she's going up there, and I'm like, she signed
Oh,
up for
yeah,
this?
that is right.
Keep piling money, keep having government contracts, AWS. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned Galaxy Quest. This does bring to mind. Is it possible that he is a Thermian in sort of a human suit, and that he's actually some sort of squid creature underneath that maybe the thing doesn't hold sometimes? And that's why he can't be seen in public?
No, I think he's trying to be. The dude is super jacked.
Yeah.
Like, no,
I appreciate you pausing as though that's in any way.
No, I was like contemplating. I always have to like. I have to think about it. No,
Yeah.
If he's like, no, I mean, I think he's more like a V, the Visitor.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've
I've
ever
not
seen that.
I hear people enjoy that, though.
Man, I mean, it was like I don't know if I was traumatized, but I was like, yeah, this is the world I want to live in, because like you rip off the face and it's like a lizard person, and like, hey, next scene, cut to next scene, lizard person's eating a rat, and you're like. I'm like, yeah, this is on network TV. I'm down for it.
It sounds great. And also that would solve our rat problem here in
Yeah.
the art building. So, it's a double win for everybody.
Sure.
You're in your first job. At what point do you start to move over, like, from the designer role at Robley to the senior designer role at Media Cabin? Like,
Yeah. It was layoffs, man.
oh, that'll happen.
We always got to be, as creatives, we always got to be ready for layoffs. And when I say that, I think it's like being more agile,
Yeah.
building that network, and really talking to people. And yeah, I think like moving over was just, hey, I'm looking for a gig. I'm still pretty junior. Let's take a shot. And like people give me a shot, but I got a gig from a friend.
Hey.
So that's how it works.
Well, and that is ultimately, that's a great lesson for folks, because that was sort of .com bubble time, and it does seem like maybe we're headed into something also pretty bad, if not already in it. And, the more you can kind of, connect with folks that you already know, like,
Yeah.
that is a great in.
It's always friends
Yeah.
and family, leverage that. But also like cozying up to people who are smarter than you.
Yeah.
Right. And whenever I go to a new place, even now, this is my thing is like be the dumbest person with the smartest questions.
Hey,
Yeah. So
I'm one of those things.
yeah. So like I think you're very smart. I think you're very smart, man.
Well,
No, but I
that's
mean like
kind of you.
yeah, I think just asking people
Yeah, truly.
like and learning from them.
Yeah.
Truly being authentic and learning from them is like key. And I try to be my authentic self. I say like insane things. I try to like, you know, when I go out in the public, you know, with my skin suit,
Wait, breaking news. Are you a Thermian?
yeah,
or
I could be a Thermian.
one of those lizard creatures from
yeah,
V?
From V. Yeah, no, I'm more of a, what is that show? Alien Nation. The movie Alien Nation.
I don't know that one.
Oh my goodness, you got to watch that one. That's like, so these aliens show up and they are basically like people. They're aliens. If I understand it correctly, they look just odd, but they were basically slaves, enslaved people. And
wow.
They land on Earth and they try to assimilate. And there's normal bigotry and all this.
From humans? I don't believe it.
Yeah, impossible, right? But we can't even like. I think we unite under the banner of like being mean to other enslaved people. But I think it's, I think it's an amazing, it's a really interesting thing. But my point being is like they look quote unquote odd or not of this world. Which
makes sense.
So
I mean,
and I am not a chameleon. I look odd. And so, therefore,
I don't know about that. I don't even know where to go from there.
You can't.
No.
I say crazy things.
But that's what this show is for, ultimately.
Yeah.
But you're also moving up in the ranks at Media Cabin. Like you have a senior in your title now. Look at that.
Well, I mean, you know, I think I was one of two.
Yeah.
And I had learned some things. And, you know, I was building websites, making campaigns.
Yeah.
You know, making Flash sites.
Oh, the heyday of Flash sites, right?
This was probably the heyday.
Yeah.
I had a pretty awesome boss. He's pretty benevolent. He let me do my own thing.
Hey.
And I think that was pretty awesome. Someone who was able to, like, let me do my thing. Did a lot of work for DeMarini bats and fun stuff. And I made an insane, like, Undertaker. I don't know. It was Undertaker-themed DeMarini bat.
Wow.
It was just like lightning bolts and like flying V guitars and that type of thing. So
all great.
Yeah, I think it was definitely influenced by Southeast Portland. And I don't know if you ever see that pickup truck that has AC/DC like spray painted on the side.
Oh, sure.
So that's kind of like I grew up with that. So I was like, yeah, let's make that part of the design.
Yeah, you know, I'm sure the Undertaker would really love going to. Oh God, now I can't. The cemetery. It's not Twin Pines. That's the mall from Lone Fir. Yeah. Twin Pines is the mall from Back to the Future. yeah. Oh, but yeah, like the Undertaker would love that place. Yeah. It's a rad place. At what point, like, does Bonfire start coming calling?
Again, with the friend scenario, they need an art director. One of my friends brought me on. I was also like into snowboard and skateboarding,
which is very important considering it is a snowboard outfit. I think
you need to at least be in the culture or familiar with the culture, and that is part of like design. You may not like the product, but you can grow to understand it.
Yeah.
You need to grow to understand it to like make things.
Oh, absolutely.
If it's pharmaceuticals, if it's like shoes, if it's deodorant, if it's computers, if it's healthcare.
Yeah.
You need to understand it or ask for help if you don't. And it's like, I usually think that ignorance is not a bad thing.
Oh, you can approach something new. Yeah.
Yeah. And you have a different viewpoint.
Yeah.
And you're like, you know what? Instead of saying the same, let's do like something a little bit different that's a little bit more emotional and captures and it has humanity to it.
And you are doing that with snowboards.
Yeah, you know, like it's easier when you like something, right? Like if you like playing basketball, if you like flowers, if you like, you know, if you have an understanding of that, then the subtleties are there. But the more exciting work and the more interesting work is done when an outsider looks at it new, with a new perspective, and then they're like, oh, this is super cool. Well,
and I think that's a very helpful thing to have too when you are looking at a category that is changing really fast, because this is not just going into action sports, but it's going into action sports at the height of the X Games and stuff like that really like taking over.
Yeah, and I think I had enough of an outside perspective because
Yeah.
like snowboarding and skiing takes money.
Yeah.
I didn't have a lot of money. It's easier to like steal your friend's skateboard and like go and never return it.
Yeah, there's no lift fees for
There's no lift
fees.
fees.
Using
Yeah.
a skateboard.
And I wasn't particularly good at any of those things,
Yeah.
but it was still like fun.
Oh
right?
yeah. And it's like that is an era that is so experimental in those spaces too, where everybody is wanting to look really interesting and it's such a nice like correlation to like the Flash websites that you're building, where every Flash website is like trying to do something that has never been done in an interface.
Yeah, and I think, you incorporate what you know and what you've experimented with.
Yeah.
And it's like, does this work? And then as I mature in my career, it's like the user is super important.
Yeah.
But you also need to like take some of that attitude that you've experienced, that you like in your hobbies, and incorporate that into the work.
100%.
So I think that's always like a big deal. So
yeah.
because skateboarding is on the edge on some things for street style. Music obviously influences fashion, right?
Yeah.
Fashion influences culture. And then it also like the pendulum swings, right? So skateboarding, like it was a rebellion to like the super sleek and skinny.
Yes.
And they were like going to, big and baggy and like
the
but
Jinko Jean era.
yeah, Jinko. But I think Jinko jeans was also like kind of rave scene a little bit.
Very much so. Yes.
Yeah. And then skateboarding, their pants shrunk.
Yeah.
When they saw that, they're like, okay, we're being co-opted by someone else.
And also we're falling down all the time and it's just on our pant legs and ouch, ouch, ouch.
Sure.
Also our $90 jeans have fallen apart.
Yeah, I
the
think
skateboard reel.
No, I mean like I think it just depends, right?
Yeah.
Like the skateboarding that I was attracted to was like army surplus, big stuff, thrifted stuff.
Yeah.
And now I see my kids wearing the stuff that I was wearing in the 90s. And I'm like, what? You're wearing a Nirvana shirt? How dare you? As I wear like a old Led Zeppelin shirt.
The cycle continues.
Yeah,
forever.
it's always it's. Oh, we think we're so cutting edge. We're just recyclers.
It's turtles all the way down
Hey,
on
man,
culture. Ultimately,
save the earth, man. Recycle it.
please recycle our culture.
Yeah.
Although not Limp Bizkit. We can leave Limp Bizkit where it was. Please stop trying to make Limp Bizkit a thing again. Gen Z, I'm begging you, please. You don't know what Pandora's box you're opening up with that. But yeah, so a very exciting space for you to be in.
Yeah,
like
I loved it.
And you stay there for 4 years.
Yeah,
Like,
stayed there for 4 years. Learned all sorts of things, campaigns, working with different magazines, trying to make a small budget look big, working with textiles, working with manufacturers overseas. And this is where my drafting came in. We were making like all sorts of the packages to send to executives overseas for garments.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. It was awesome.
Like, and that's such a different world than like the digital focused work you were doing before. Like everything is tangible and like physical, and you have to think about all the different aspects of who's making it and what the chain is that it's moving through.
Yeah, I think, and then having a partner like Adidas Solomon,
Yeah.
at the time, who was like, you can do this and you can do that, but then having, this is in the world of like going on trips and literally laying things out, going to trade shows and learning all the ins and outs of apparel, construction, again, culture. What, you go to Vegas again, trade show capital of the universe.
Is
probably.
it ever? My God.
Yeah.
I used to drive to school every day underneath the Las Vegas Convention Center where it kind of dips underneath, and it was never not packed with just
something.
So much trade show energy. It seems like that complex is also now twice as big as it was before I left, which is wild to think.
Well, there's like the two convention areas.
Yeah.
At the time, I was at the Star Trek Hilton Convention Center, which I love because I'm a Star Trek fan, Star Trek nerd.
Did you get to do the Star Trek experience back in the day?
Yeah, man.
With the Corks bar?
Yeah. Dude, beam me a burger right now into my stomach.
Okay, so when you were at the Corks bar, did you ever get a warp core breach? This was some friends of mine after I graduated undergrad were obsessed with this drink. It was a drink that was served in a punch bowl. Dry ice was a component of it. but like not a punch bowl, but a fish bowl. Like, so it is round on top, and it required you to have a Sobe Life Water beverage that was discontinued. So they had to buy this Sobe flavor on the secondary market, used and again expired. But like, it was the most bizarre drink that I think I've ever had.
No, I've seen it. I was too afraid.
Yeah.
I was like, we had to go to the show to like function.
Yeah.
A little bit. So like
those poor servers in Ferengi makeup are going to make fun of you if you buy it.
Yeah, I wasn't prepared to like deal with Quark. Deep Space Nine. I love that. The underbelly of Star Trek, or
so good.
The Federation, that is. Sorry, dorkness is coming out, but I'm a fan. I'm a fan of all of it. So like,
it's amazing. Imagine going to a server job though and having to spend 4 hours in makeup every day.
Hey, I think like,
as long as you're being paid, I guess it's fine.
Yeah,
but
I think it's
yikes.
fine. And then you can like, that's the resume builder.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I approach things in terms of the design career, is like, I'm going to say yes to where most people would say no.
Yeah.
Because I think those people who are like at Disneyland.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And like doing the Ferengi outfit.
Yeah.
It's something that goes on a resume if they want to go to Hollywood, right?
I feel like there's a lot of people that I know of in podcasting who spent time in those costumes at Disneyland. Those hot, sweaty, stinky costumes.
Sweat it out, dude. Snow White. Super gross.
The ones where the whole head is the character, those must smell so bad on the inside. There's just no way that's not a stink factory.
I think, dude, shout out to Disney actors, but when they are like making a kid's experience like super fun.
Oh yeah.
And they're like suffering within
in like 105 degree California heat.
Yeah, and like just sniffing their own breath. Like in a goofy costume, like.
And let's not forget the breath of the 80 other Disney partners that had been in that suit before them.
I think it's a good thing. They're doing the Lord's work.
Truly.
So making a kid happy and psyched. So, yeah, man, put that on page 1 of your resume for sure. Because then, who knows? You're going to be the next like person that's going to be on Severance.
I mean, maybe.
Yeah.
I do think Adam Scott had maybe done some of that work. I want to say.
I think many actors and actresses have to do that stuff to like, hey man, I'm going to do a commercial.
Yeah.
And it's going to be selling like orthopedic, whatever. And I'm like, and then boom, Brad Pitt.
Absolutely. Right. Like you gotta go through that to get to where you are going to end up.
Yeah.
And like, I forget who it was, but there was someone that Spielberg had cast out of just seeing them in a commercial too. Like you never know where people are going to find you.
Yeah.
Too.
I think half those Star Wars people are unknowns. Right?
Oh yeah.
And look at them now.
They have so much more money that they also own their own California towns, along with Jeff Bezos.
Yeah.
And,
pay the fines for that hedge, man. That too tall hedge.
Bezos's hedge is getting so much hate in this episode.
No, man. If I had $1 bazillion, I'd be like a part-time jerk.
Absolutely.
But then like, you got to balance it out by being benevolent and like doing scholarships for people.
I think that's the thing that none of them want to do right now, which sort of makes it all the more sinister. They just want to be the bosses on Severance, and we form religions about them, which seems to be what that show's headed towards.
No, Bill Gates is like, he appears to be like super nice and like save the kids, give them vaccines and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But as a businessman, he was pretty ruthless.
Yeah, sort of famously. Yeah.
He had to like make a
$2
quadrillion. So like to then now have vaccines for kids.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So, cool. Carnegie was not a great guy, but we all have libraries now because of him. So
literacy is a good thing. And, he funds art programs and the family does the thing. So
yeah. Like you were learning the sports apparel life to get back to the path that you're on. And like eventually you kind of wrap up your time at Bonfire and go into freelance. And among the places that you're freelancing at is Nike. How does that all like happen?
Yeah, I think again, the consistency of layoffs or restructuring happens.
Oh,
like it happened at Bonfire.
Yeah.
I love that place. It was a great place, but they needed to restructure. So it was definitely not a performance. I actually asked for an exit interview and they granted me one and they like talked about it. And it was like, hey, we got to like, to them, they gave great explanation and I accepted it. And I was like, cool,
Yeah.
it's time to move on, and went on to Nike and started working for a category that was called sport culture that morphed into now Nike sportswear.
A pretty big part of the Nike economy,
Yeah,
fundamentally.
Yeah. So, but every expert was once a beginner, and especially even for that category.
Yeah.
It was trying to find its footing, but did some awesome things for them, and moved on.
From that, you move over to Wyden, where you spend a lot of, like, basically the next 10 years working.
Yeah, close to that. I think probably like 8-9 years.
Yeah.
So, yeah, good place. I submitted my portfolio maybe when I got out of college. The studio director at the time gave me a critique on my portfolio.
Oh, interesting. So you have this relationship going that far back.
Well, it was just like, I'm down with playing bully ball.
Yeah.
Right. So make opportunities where there are none. Start talking to people, having informational interviews.
Yeah.
And then, build a relationship. And I think I interviewed there a few times, and it's really timing.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's pretty interesting because it's like, put it in my resume, I get a book, and it was the WK-12.
Yes. The
Year
sort of
one.
famous, like, advertising school set up within Wyden.
Yes. And I got an invite to that a little bit, where it was more, not an invite, it was more like this is happening.
Yeah.
So I talked to my wife. She encouraged me to like join, like, hey, you should try to join that. And I was like, of course, I was like, well, we're newly married. We're trying to make a life for ourselves. I need to like make money.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can go back to school. I think that was just a conundrum.
It's a risk because
no risk, no return, right? So like I declined that, went to my other jobs, which were great. I loved doing that. And then Wyden called with a job for me to work on Starbucks.
Wow.
So
at probably the peak Starbucks moment where Starbucks is finally in people's like lives all over the place.
Yeah, they're doing their thing. They wanted a relationship, so I had an opportunity to work in Wyden Candy's studio department. So the greatest studio around, I would say. But,
yeah, I mean that's huge.
Yeah.
Like that's a humongous client and like one of the most prime spaces to be working within Wyden too.
Yeah, I think part of it was the timing. Part of it was like, I would like to think my ability and what I accomplished so far in my career. But I think the reality was they needed a warm body to throw on the fire. So,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's whatever the case may be, I was like put into the ranks there.
So you're starting off in the Starbucks space. Like, where else do you go within Wyden? Like, what connections are you making too?
Just talking to people, getting to know the lay of the land, working hard, putting my head down. But I dip into EA, Old Spice, Velveeta. I do work for Nike. What's cool about the studio at that time was I was able to do a lot of things. I'd just volunteer.
Yeah.
One, because like it was cool. I felt like they're always good people, and I want to meet them and surround myself. And by nature, I'm actually an introvert, so I don't really like to talk to people. I was under the impression that like my work would stand out on its own, and in some cases it did, but in many cases, I think a lot of times you have to be vocal.
Very much so.
And I'm very old right now, and I still haven't learned it. So like, talking to people and being an advocate for yourself is a big deal.
It's so important, and it is the hardest. It's the hardest lesson to learn, and I feel like it's the hardest lesson to teach students too. That in many ways, the difference between successful work and not successful work is just the advocacy that happens outside of the work for yourself or for that position that you're taking with the work.
Yep.
Nothing is necessarily self-evident. You have to sell it, and you have to learn what the language is to sell it and connect it to the people that you're serving with it.
Yeah, it's easier for me to be an advocate for causes, and it's easier for me to be advocate for other people. But I always find it, I think probably when I was growing up, and maybe this is the Chinese guy in me, that I find it distasteful to like be a braggart.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, that could be a problem especially in today's world of self-promotion.
Well, and that is such a big change that has happened really like in the last 15 years too, is how much of that you now have to do. Like it was really seen as like a little verboten too, like, you know, around the time that you would have been starting at Wyden for you to have to advocate for yourself as much.
Yeah,
like,
I think that was my own learning in terms of like there's ways of like doing things. It's something that needs to be done because everybody else is doing it.
Yeah.
I don't particularly like it, but I see when you see people ascend, and it's not that their work is better because everybody's really talented. It's like, oh, they just get more opportunity because they are louder.
Yeah.
A squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Truly.
Yep.
And like, I think that is one of, I dare say, the reasons that I think you do tend to see fewer designers in creative director roles and stuff like that than you do writers who I think are a little better about advocating for themselves.
Yeah.
Because they're generally better with language. That's sort of the field that they went into. But,
yeah, no, I think you can still be I still think you can be a showman.
Absolutely.
But or not so much but be an advocate.
Yeah. So you're working on Electronic Arts. Is this where the Bulletstorm project comes into play?
Yeah, Bulletstorm.
So do you want to tell folks, this was one of the stories that was told to me by the great Orion Cortez, our occasional editor on this program, as like one of the most interesting projects that you've worked on over the years.
Yeah, shout out Orion. So I think for me, Bulletstorm was a EA game that was really fun. It's crass. It's silly, irreverent. And I was put on a team with a bunch of other talented studio designers, and we would just build little props and stunts and stuff like that.
Just
and
the goofiest stuff that you can think of for this action movie game.
Action movie game. And, you know, like I said, Wyden has a great studio, and they have tons of craftspeople in it. And we were just building all sorts of things. I think the project, if I remember correctly, was that we basically send a pile of leftovers after you blasted someone to influencers.
Taking the form of ground meat.
Yeah, ground meat. So basically you get the residue of your enemies, put it all into a package, put a USB drive into it with all the pertinent information of Bulletstorm, and send it to influencers.
Yeah.
And so it would have like dog tags, chewed up metal, fabric, bullet casings that like I got from, a shooting range.
Oh, like real Jesus, really?
Yeah,
wow.
it's all like we try to make it as real as possible.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of like the design that I gravitate towards is like realism.
Yeah.
Yeah, gunpowder. We mixed all sorts of stuff into it. It was all raw meat, and we'd ship it to people.
Was it actual meat? Because that was the big. Oh my god.
Yeah.
So you had to ship this with ice and stuff.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was awesome.
That's so wild. I truly was prepared for that. That was how Orion described it to me, that it was actual. I was like, there's no way it could have been it was actual meat.
Yeah, I think it's, you have to cut through the clutter
of
like, stunts and stuff like that. And it was a simple idea. And I think that's the most powerful thing is the idea, because the game is insane. It's funny. As a playable character, you can do a lot of middle fingers and all that type of stuff.
I'm imagining some real Duke Nukem energy from this. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, if Duke Nukem had an angrier, little nephew.
Dave Nukem.
Yeah. Yeah. Frankie Nukem works in
the
Bulletstorm.
third.
Yeah. The third.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's a simple idea that has legs.
Yeah.
And you send it to people, and people were brave enough to like take that USB stick out and put it into their computer.
Which, I mean, in and of itself is pretty wild to be thinking about. Like,
yeah. It's just, how do you have a strong idea, cut through the clutter, and like keep it simple and within budget and
like,
time?
That's the thing that no one is ever going to forget who receives that package too.
Yeah.
Like at that time, to be getting a package of raw meat with like stuff in it, like that's a wild thing. Do you think anybody made burgers out of the meat? It's a question.
Well, they'd probably have to visit the hospital, right? I mean, like
there's some other stuff in there.
If you want to, if you're able to pass a bullet casing, go for it, man.
Well, I need more fiber in my diet anyway, so I assume that there's some of that in metal.
Yeah.
Probably.
Depends on what caliber,
Yeah.
right? Why do I sound so insane?
I don't know. I love it though. I mean, the other thing too, like this is work that earns you. It earns you a bunch of awards, but the one that stood out to me at Con, you won the Bronze Cyber Lion for some of your projects with EA. I didn't know there was a Cyber Lion, but that's the most sick name that they possibly could have come up with for that.
Yeah, I think they have a lot of, at the time, there's a lot of digital work that was being done.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of categories of those that pop up, but definitely team effort. I know that working alongside the creative team was super fun.
Yeah.
And then just helping them come up with the look and feel. And then there's tons of craftspeople within the studio that can like help make that quickly, and assemble it together as quickly as possible and ship out to influencers. So yeah.
It's an incredible thing. So you're doing like the most fun work that you can possibly do. Like
it's intense for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
It's intense.
Yeah. Probably some long hours.
There was, I missed out on a few things.
Yeah.
But it did add to the work. So I'm definitely thankful for that.
Yeah. Also, while you're at Wyden, you're working on like brands like Old Spice, like Velveeta, like Target, and also Nike too.
Yeah.
To kind of like circle back around.
All fun people. It's great to be in a community and in an industry where there's a high concentration of great clients that are willing to take risks, which I love, and people who at least understand what it takes to kind of move the needle on awareness.
Yeah. Like, especially as the world is getting more noisy, which is really happening in spades, like during the time you're at Wyden.
Yeah.
At what point does TBWA kind of start to like come calling and that opportunity began?
So this was an interesting thing. I was in a conversation with a friend that used to work at Wyden Candy. He moved on and he was asking me all these questions about like China, and because I had spent some time with Wyden to help open the office in Shanghai.
Oh.
Yeah. He was asking me all these things and he was like, hey, here's an opportunity. Maybe you want to like help open the office in Shanghai for TBWA Media Arts Lab. And I'm like, what's that? I don't even know what.
There's so many parts to that name.
Yeah, there's so many initials. But Media Arts Lab is the agency for Apple.
Yeah.
At the time, the outside agency for Apple. And doing cool stuff, but they're associated with TBWA just because of its history. And I was like, yeah, I've been to China. I don't speak Mandarin that well, but, I'm always interested. So when this opportunity came around, Wyden was going through another round of layoffs, unfortunately.
It was not a great time in the industry. We were still kind of in the end of the big recession.
No, stuff, comes and goes.
Yeah.
And so I think they lost a client or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
They needed to downsize, but I'd already signed the paperwork to go to Mal.
Hey.
Yeah. So people were asking me, how'd you find the job so fast? And I was like, I didn't want to say anything. Sorry, this may betray some things, but like I was really happy at Wyden, but I was also like excited about an awesome opportunity at Mal.
Oh, of course, because it's like it is,
and to work on a cool brand.
It's a thing that you so rarely get to do, like actually be truly in charge of like a whole country's operations for this company. Like,
yeah, I think it was, it's always a learning, and I always jump with 2 feet in. So yeah, that's how it goes.
Yeah, and this is also a very important time for Apple too, which like was really trying to position itself in China with the iPhone and.
Yeah, they're trying to position themselves. I mean, Apple is doing fine.
Yeah.
But like, but I think an emerging middle class in China, which, had some money. Yeah, they want to spend it on products.
Yeah.
And of course there are some local products in China that were awesome, but Apple is definitely can be regarded as a status symbol for some. So it was a cool opportunity. And they just made kind of the phones, the iPhones with color, which is, I think are super cool and fun.
Oh, the 5Cs?
Yeah, the 5Cs and the colorful iMacs were like really still in vogue, I believe.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I think color is always good.
Color is great. Now that they've kind of brought back the color iMacs, I have been kind of, I mean, I have a gray iMac here that we're recording on, and thank goodness, because it has upgradable RAM. And also my laptop is dying horribly, slowly and painfully, the way that laptops do. And then all at once, probably in about 3 months' time, when it will be very inconvenient to replace. But, you know, like it is something so special to have a computer with personality like that. Like, I will never forget my first iMac.
Yeah.
It looks like nothing else, and it's so weird. And I mean, it's one of those aliens that sort of plopped down in front of it.
Yeah, no, I feel like at that time in China, they were trying to reestablish themselves.
Oh yeah,
as the premium product that they are.
Yeah,
they were going two-pronged, where it was like color and personality, but then also like they unveiled the gold.
Oh yeah,
iPhone as well.
Yeah,
so that was pretty fancy, and yeah, I think that world is fun. You know.
Yeah. What was it? I mean, you'd already been spending some time out there for Wyden. Like, was it a big adjustment, like coming into that sort of leadership role, but also like, I mean, living in Shanghai? And I mean,
yeah, I think the first time I went there, they didn't have credit cards, right?
That's a problem.
Yeah, but I think like all the conveniences that we had in the United States,
yeah,
that was the first time I had gone.
Now the pendulum swung completely the
other
way.
And then the second time I went, it was cool because like it was a Blade Runner feature, right? In many ways, it was super Blade Runner. Dogs had sneakers on their paws.
What, really?
Yeah, dogs had sneakers on their paws.
This is a thing?
Yeah, and then like the Chinese locals that were affluent but probably had poor taste, you know, they were probably buying Apple Watches for their dogs for each paw. I mean, you
got to track those steps individually for each leg.
Yeah, so that's pretty. So I think the pendulum has swung, but it was also like foiled with there were people still pouring out chamber pots.
Yeah,
right. So you look on one side of the street, Blade Runner, super cool neon under the highways, and on the other side, houses that were made in the 20s and 30s that didn't have plumbing.
Yeah,
right. So that were being demolished to put like a super duper skyscraper.
But it is fascinating, like how that kind of infrastructure is so much more complicated to actually get to people than something like that, where it's just like it appears and you can get it, and the cell tower is installed somewhere else, so you don't have to even think about that.
Yeah, like you said, all these roads, all these little tiny alleyways and stuff, they all have names, they all have history. Shout out to all the Shanghai taxi drivers that know every single road. Where without GPS, you tell them where to go, and they like find it, and they know it's like baked in their memory.
Oh, it's such a powerful thing. Have you heard of the knowledge, the like test that London cabbies have to take to prove that they know every single street and how to get there? It's incredible.
I can only imagine.
It like, I mean, I imagine Shanghai's an even more complicated set of problems than, because I think it's a bigger city than London even, but like.
Well, those cities are like hundreds, if not thousands of years old, right? And they just like, well, we're just going to pave the road or pave the cobblestone, but the lane or the alley is still, that's what it is, right?
Yeah, because it's been there.
It's been there
since time immemorial.
Yeah.
Like truly predating like the government.
Yeah. So, and you need to know it. And
yeah.
It's fascinating. I can only imagine.
Yeah. It's a very bizarre thing. And as someone who cannot remember, who was struggling to remember the name Fifth Avenue earlier for a bit, that the street that I have worked on now for 15 years, that's probably not something I'm going to be doing. So sometimes you have to just learn what to let go of in your life.
Yeah, and man. I say a lot of times the SCSI drive in my brain is like it's so finite that I'm like, sorry man, stuff's got to get deleted.
Well, at least it's SCSI though. It's got great throughput. Yeah. You know, like
they don't even have that tech anymore.
No, not at all. No.
So, yeah. Again, knowing that reference betrays my age.
Hey, it betrays mine too, because I knew exactly what you were talking about. I had a whole thing about Terminators too that I'm not even going to use. SCSI is a weird technology. Anyway, but yeah, so like you're out there, you're doing all kinds of projects. At what point do you decide like maybe you want to come back to the States and start like kind of working on your own again?
Yeah, I think it's again the magic word. Layoffs.
Oh, the funnest word there is.
The fun. No, again, it's like reinforces being agile, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, when I was doing work with Mal, they hadn't grown as quickly as they hoped, and I think it was also because of the combination of trade wars.
Sure, yeah.
So I think that was a thing.
Yeah,
and they were up to speed. I'd done a good enough job to like get the agency going. So it was a good time to come back because my family stayed in the States.
Oh, wow.
And I
okay.
went there to like help work on the office.
That's a tough commute.
Yeah, it's a long commute.
Yeah.
14 hours.
Oh, God. And you're crossing the date line too. So that's just going to completely mess with your brain.
Oh man, I'm like time traveler, man. I go into the future and I go back in the past.
Yeah, there are days you've lived twice.
Yeah, man.
And then days that you've not lived at all.
Yeah.
They just disappeared.
They disappear.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
But you come back to the States and you start Liberty. Like,
yeah.
How do you decide on that as like the course of action?
Necessity.
Yeah, but yeah.
Of course.
That'll do it.
It's always, and I think that's kind of the connecting thread.
Yeah.
Is necessity.
The mother of invention.
Right. So just trying to survive, having my network go, work for me.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, like, I think I talked earlier with another group, but it was like, try to have really strong work,
Yeah.
that people can go, oh, I remember this guy. He does pretty good work.
Oh, absolutely. And like, I think it also makes sense as a response to like, you've been in the agency world for a long time and you've seen the instability of it. Why not take that into your own hands and be like, I know how to navigate this. I just need to be able to like get the power to me in this scenario instead of some random executive having the power.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's about like, sometimes you don't get the opportunity.
Yeah.
So you have to create your own opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, again, this is where we talked about a little bit of playing bully ball.
Yeah.
When I was in China, I was working on a poster project here and there. And someone called me and they're like, hey, can you work on this Nike project? And this is when I was still in Shanghai. So I was working on my Mal stuff. And I was doing a freelance project for Big Giant.
Wow.
And it was cool. It was like fun to do a Nike interior, I think. Can't remember. They just needed me for a little bit of like razzle dazzle. And then I came back home and I started a gig at Nike's workplace design and connectivity group, which was doing interiors.
Oh, sure.
So I was like, came back to kind of do a little bit of the same job.
Yeah.
And so
you got a little sneak preview essentially.
Yeah, but they were doing that was through Big Giant.
Yeah.
And then I came in and I started working for Nike in WD and C and doing that type of work. And that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So.
And you've been doing this now for like over 10 years.
Yeah, for a while.
Yeah.
I think. I don't know. Time blurs. What do they say? Parenthood is like the nights are long, but the years are short. So now it's like, I would also say that for like creatives and design.
Yeah. Ooh.
So, because I blink and now I'm like, this is where I'm at.
Yeah. I think both of those scenarios describe me in the past year, especially. It's been a long couple of nights and some very quick turnaround years.
For sure.
But yeah, like, I mean, you've done a ton of stuff like with Apple, with like Kaiser Permanente, with like Google recently too. Like,
yeah.
In that time, like those are, I mean, you're taking on big projects and big clients.
Yeah. I think again, it's the work and people like what I do. I'm not a raging a-hole. I try not to be, that is.
You're not.
Yeah, I think it's, again, being consistent, and people hear about the work that I do, and they're like, we need a creative, we need an idea guy, we need an art dude
Yeah,
to like do the thing. And I'm like, hey man, I'm here to have fun.
absolutely.
Right? I'm here to party.
100%.
Design party, that is.
I mean, to that end, on your website, you have a really nice, like, long, essentially letter from the legendary Jim Riswold of Wyden, and it ends with, "You can't do better than you. You can also eat a good-sized donut in one bite," which is a astonishing claim. Can you eat a good-sized donut in one bite?
It depends on what type of donut.
I'm assuming this is bigger than a donut hole.
No, yeah, bigger than, it's a regular sized donut.
Regular sized donut. Cake?
Can be cake. Can be just a regular glazed.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's ambitious.
Hey man, I can do it. I came in second place to a hot dog eating contest.
Did you really?
Yeah, man. Only second place though.
Well, still.
First place went to, I can't remember.
Kobayashi?
No. Tiny.
The other guy?
Young lady. She just kept on like just going bonkers.
Oh, sure.
At Wyden Kennedy's Founders Day.
Oh, this is a Founders Day thing, of course. Yeah. Do you want to describe Founders Day for people who may not know?
Yeah, Founders Day was April 1st, April Fool's Day for, I guess, when Wyden Kennedy started.
Yes.
So, yeah, they have a yearly party where who knows what goes on, you know.
I've had it described as somewhat of a bacchanal in certain years. I hope it's less so now. I assume it is.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't know, but the times that I were there, they went all out. It was fun.
Yeah.
It was fun to see your colleagues and your work friends kind of let their hair down a little bit. The few years that I attended, I do remember David Kennedy and Dan Wyden taking sledgehammers to cars and stuff like that.
Wait, what? Was there a reason for this, or just they?
I think they were trying to, I don't know, symbolic, but it was cool to see the big dogs take swings, you know, at sheet metal and wreaking havoc in the literal and figurative sense as well, you know.
Cars also a lot harder to destroy than one might think based on what happens in car accidents.
Yeah.
They're kind of hardy.
Yeah, no, they're engineered for safety.
Yeah.
But the founders, man, they brought the pain to it. So I'm all for it.
It's amazing. Thank you so much,
No, thank
Peter.
you. It's an honor.
Where can people find you if they want to find you?
Yeah, they can find me on the internet, peteryue.com.
Yeah, that's probably the best place to go.
That's the best place. Or you can find me on, I don't do the TikTok. I don't know what the TikTok is.
I also don't know what the TikTok is, but it might go away. It may not exist by the time this goes out, which
no
is
way, man.
Weird.
The stuff comes and goes. So whatever, you know, the Donald's got up his sleeve. Hey, I'm here for the show. I got my popcorn. I'm ready. I got a soda. You know, unless it's been tariffed, then it's
I think
like,
all of those things are going to be tariffed completely to hell. And maybe that's an old reference by the time this goes out, because that all moves 10 million times faster than anything else. Truly, what a bizarre world we live in.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much.
No, thank you.
And also, hey, one more thank you out there to all of you who are listening to this. If this is your first time hearing the show, be sure to subscribe wherever you found it, unless you found it on a floppy disk on the street, in which case you can't subscribe. I don't who put it there. The file is usually quite large, so I don't know how you would get it on that disk. But anyway, go to the internet at dididothat.design, and you can find out a whole bunch of places to subscribe if you haven't already. If you've got a moment, please rate, review, and share this show. I always call out that, you know, Apple Podcasts weirdly is a great platform for like leaving written ratings and stars, because a lot of other platforms actually use just that as their secret backend. But you know what? Hey, just tell a friend. That's even better. I'm even going to throw this one out there. I would love to see somebody share this show on your favorite subreddit, whatever that is. And I realize I'm opening myself up for a lot of pain doing this as a suggestion, but you know what? I'm here for it. So if you want to share it on a really weird one, go right ahead. Find your favorite episode and post it up there, and send me the link over email. You can find the email on the website, and I will send a special prize to whoever sends me the weirdest place you've shared this show. And I hope to regret that promise rather quickly. I think if it works, then it will be really funny. And if it doesn't, then I will be really sad. But you get a prize either way. Anyway, this has been Did I Do That? I'm Sean Schumacher. And as we always say at the close of every episode,
see ya.
That's what we always say. See ya. Bye. I assume this is around his house, like some sort of super tall hedge.
Yeah, I think it's like these ginormous hedges that I'm like, oh, you must have like a cherry picker to come out and, you know, your gardener to like shave down the perfect hedge, but it's like 2 stories tall. But he's a gazillionaire.
Yeah,
so he can pay for that.
Nothing is going to stop him. It's also just so funny that he runs basically the world's largest data mining operation to figure out what consumers want to buy, and he can't be in that group, of course. What goes on inside Jeff Bezos' home? Secret. What goes inside all of our homes that have an Amazon Alexa in them? Just public for training data.
You're gonna, I'm sure like all the microphones in our phones and computers and TVs and like all the little like smart speakers. Hey man, if you want to see me like eating cold pizza in my underwear, bro, go for it. It's like it's an ugly sight. It's gonna be like, I know you're not looking at, but just hearing the sound of it, of me chewing, is like gross and like no way, man.
Which may have been for their Audi, AUDI. Is it D? AUDI? I don't know. Trump's always railing against AUDI, and I don't think he knows what it means even.